guys, Troll Slayer here. So, as you may have heard, Bradley is out of town this week on vacation. Must be nice. Anyway, since he's not here to record a podcast episode, we're going to use the space for a little podcasting of our own.
Honey, whose house is this? Are we breaking and entering?
No, Mom! I told Bradley we'd be here, so technically it's just entering. Okay, well, now I guess it is breaking and entering.
Troll Slayer, Rule 104 of the Smart Shopper Handbook in conjunction with Clenchport Fire Code states that a room of this size may only hold up to 5 people.
Why are you quoting the Smart Shopper Handbook, Jeb? We're not even in Clenchport. Yeah, that's my son. Always thinking about safety, just like his dad. Ironic that the Doomsday Prepper who sells firearms and explosives out of his truck is the one lecturing us about safety.
Master, why does it smell like feet in here?
I'll tell you when you're older, Toby. Hey, Troll Slayer, can we get this show on the road? Fine. Anyway, these other people are from Clenchport too, and we're taking over the Saved Us Draft podcast. So get comfortable, because it's about to get weird. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31.5 of the Saved Us Draft podcast. This is Past Bradley speaking. I'm recording this before I go on a real, genuine vacation for the first time in years. Since I'll be out of town this week, I decided to do a mini episode of the podcast here, so this will be more compact than what you're used to, but it should be pretty fun all the same. So, as many of you know, I'm working on an animated series alongside my friend of over 20 years, James Nethery, who is a professional animator himself. We've also got a team of over 15 people working with us, including artists, animators, and voice actors. Our upcoming series is a combination of horror and comedy, and it's called The Chronicles of Clenchport. It's set in a fictional town located in southwest Virginia, and it follows the exploits of several characters from various walks of life, several of whom you met in this week's intro. Clenchport is also going to be a transmedia universe, so it will exist across different mediums. You may have noticed that I have a section of my short stories in my content directory related to the series. These stories are indeed set in the same universe as the upcoming show, which is in turn set within my larger horror mythos, The Synaptic Sprawl. But more on that soon. Beyond the animated series and the short stories I've done, Clenchport will be getting its own podcast soon as well. The Many Worlds of Clenchport will be a narrative show with an ongoing story that discusses the history of the town and taps into found audio from parallel versions of it as well. My recent post, titled Tape 47, acts as a teaser for the upcoming podcast, so if you have yet to check it out, please do and let me know what you think. Okay, and with all that context out of the way, today's special mini episode of the Saved Us Draft podcast will include a few funny segues pulled from the upcoming narrative podcast, as well as a panel discussion between myself and James Nethery as we talk about the history of the series, where things are at now, and what's on the horizon. If you're a fan of my work, or if you've enjoyed some of the Clenchport stories that I've shared thus far, this is one episode that you won't want to miss. Stay tuned for the panel discussion next, right after this message from a local Clenchport favorite, the Burger Lord.
Warriors, sons and daughters of the kingdom, as your queen, I will not stand by while you ride into battle alone. Together, we shall ride into battle and... Oh dear!
Don't ride into battle hungry. Take your fellow warriors to lunch at the Burger Lord. Come try the new Excaliburger. Find out if you're worthy enough to pull the sword from the bun.
All right, and we are back, and thank you to the Burger Lord for sponsoring this episode. They are a very popular restaurant in Clenchport. Next up, we have a panel discussion with myself and co-creator of the Chronicles of Clenchport series, James Nethery. All right, everybody, and for this week's episode, a mini episode of the Saved Us Draft podcast, as I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to have a panel discussion here between myself and the co-creator of the Chronicles of Clenchport, which is our upcoming animated horror comedy series. And so I have with me today my friend of over 20 years and professional animator who's been on the show before but is now returning, Mr. James Nethery. James, thank you for being here.
Hello, good to be here.
So let's start off with our discussion here. I wanted to talk a little bit about how, have us kind of introduce ourselves and then talk about how we met. So obviously everybody knows me, but for the sake of people who may not have heard your episode of the podcast way back when that you were on, let's have you tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. My name is James Nethery. I'm a animator. I live in Atlanta, Georgia right now. I'm actually from Orlando, which is where I met Bradley. I kind of started my animation career down there. I started kind of as a hobby, doing stuff with Bradley, actually doing cartoons way back in the day. Started when we were probably like 15 or 16 doing stuff, high school. Then yeah, I think shortly like 2015, I moved up to Atlanta. Been doing some freelance in Orlando. Moved up to Atlanta to work on Archer and a bunch of other shows, and I've been there ever since. And I'm really excited to get Clenchport off the ground.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, as James mentioned, he and I met back when we were 15, I think, or so. And
Hmm.
I've told this story before, but we were both volunteers at the Orlando Science Center down in
Orlando
Florida.
Science Center.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And yeah, as soon as I found out you were an animator, and as soon as you found out I was a writer, we basically immediately jumped into projects together, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple. We did like a couple like really early ones where I didn't know what the hell I was doing like on the animation side.
Yeah.
But we recorded like on this old like tape recorder first,
Yep.
and then we recorded on a video camera.
Yep.
Like I vividly remember us doing a recording session, and I just open up the footage and it's just like our mouths and noses. It's like filming up our noses the whole
Right.
time.
Right.
And we're doing this at the science center too. So it's like under this we went like under the stairway, I think over in like the clubhouse.
Right.
And every time someone would come down the stairs, we would just like, oh, we better hide.
This will take a while to explain.
Yeah.
So yeah, so speaking of those early years, I wanted to talk a little bit about how our projects and our work have evolved over the years.
Mhm.
Obviously, a lot of it is not publicly on YouTube right now, just because it's old, and we want to obviously have the most up-to-date representation of your skills,
Yeah.
my skills, so on and so forth. But we have done a lot of projects over the years, and so I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about, for example, back in the day, we had this character who started out as claymation, and his
Oh
name was Lucky
yeah.
Bob. He was your creation,
Oh,
James.
Lucky Bob.
Right, exactly. And so I remember one of our first big projects was Lucky Bob's Time Machine, which was a
Time
movie.
machine.
Yeah, a movie that I wrote. And if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
it was about 30 minutes of animation when it was all said and
Something
done. Yeah.
like that. The second one was longer actually. I think the first one was 20, the second one was 30.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy to think about. I mean, back then we had nothing but free time. Yeah.
Basically, yeah, I kind of like skimped on a lot of my schoolwork to get a lot of that done, but yeah.
Were you the only person animating it? I think you were. Yeah.
I think you actually animated a couple shots on
That's
that.
true. I did. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just very basic stuff. But
Yeah. We were using Moho at the time, which is actually still around and
hmm,
still being used.
that's cool.
So,
It was
yeah.
pretty intuitive software from what I remember.
It's gotten even better too over the years. I'm actually really interested to play around with it some more.
And so another early project that we did was our attempt at doing something quote unquote serious, and that was Death from
Hmm.
Above, which I'm sure you remember.
Death from above. I love that. It's like, you're not my son.
So the concept with that one, and I'm reaching back here into my memories, but the concept with that one was it was inspired by the movie Reign of Fire, specifically the
That's
opening scene
right.
specifically the opening
Yeah.
scene where construction workers end up discovering a dragon nest, I think underground or something.
Hmm.
And so at the beginning of Death from Above, construction workers uncover this nest of like eggs. And it's these weird, I mean, I have to be honest, from what I recall, the creature design was pretty cool. It was almost like a xenomorph.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, so anyway, they end up unleashing these creatures. And so the twist was that they're weak to electricity, I think is what it was.
Yes.
And yeah, there's a scene that's supposed to be super serious and like heart-wrenching where because like if I recall correctly, the creatures could give off spores that would infect you and turn you into one of them.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where the main character, Jack, his son, gets infected and
Hmm.
so he has to kill his own son and he says the classic line, "You're not my son," or whatever. But I mean, It was cheesy. It was very cheesy, but it was a good movie.
I remember him throwing a hair dryer in that wasn't plugged in to the bath.
Yeah, the idea was that he had the monster trapped in a bathtub and he was trying to electrocute it, and so he was threw a hair dryer in there, but yeah, it wasn't even plugged in. So yeah, plot hole from a movie that came out, and that like 10 people saw.
Yep.
So yeah, so we have some classic projects. But I love talking about them because they were so ambitious for the time.
Yeah.
And so fast forward a little bit here. In 2012,
Mhm.
we we created a character called Troll Slayers. Let me pause for a second there, and I want to get your input on this.
Mhm.
What is your memory of what inspired Troll Slayer? How did that character come about?
I remember watching a video online of just this kid raging in his driveway with like a video camera. He's like just screaming into the video camera, and like ranting about all kinds of stuff like movies and like life in general. And I was like, huh, that's actually really kind of funny. It would be really funny to do like kind of a parody of that. So that was kind of my pitch to Bradley as like I just came over one day and said, hey, we want to do this Troll Slayer thing. Why don't you just improv a bunch of shit? You know?
Right,
And
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I remember you pitching me that, and
Mhm.
we called him Troll Slayer, if I'm not mistaken, because the initial concept was that he was supposed to be someone who takes out or slays trolls on the internet,
Yes.
but the ironic nature of it is that he himself is a troll.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, and so that's how that character started. And I remember when we first started doing that, I would record the audio for it, and it would just be improv. Like we would pick a topic
Yeah.
and I
Hmm.
would just start like ranting about it as his character.
Yeah, it's really funny. I still have a lot of that old audio. It's hilarious.
Yeah, one of these days maybe we
Yeah.
should just pull the audio, if anything,
We should.
and feature it on
Yeah.
the podcast. Hey, if
Mhm.
you if anyone listening, if you want to hear those classic Troll Slayer rants that I did when I was much younger, let me know in the comments. If I get enough demand for it, I will feature it on the show. So, all right, James. So, yeah, that's how Troll Slayer got started. That was back in 2012, which,
Yeah,
yeah, that makes me feel old.
I know.
Um, and so Troll Slayer obviously is a big character in the Clenchport series, but another big character in the Clenchport series is Dr. Henry Armitage. Dr. Armitage is actually a character, or the name is at least, a character from Lovecraft. And so because
Hmm.
Lovecraft is public domain, we're kind of paying homage to him since the horror aspects of the animated series are indeed Lovecraftian or cosmic horror.
Yeah.
So, James, why don't you tell the story here, or at least your version of it? The story
Hmm.
about how we first came up with this evil doctor character, which was a really funny kind of coincidence sort of moment, if you recall.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Didn't you see like a store or something like that, like a shop? Oh, I can't even remember the full story. Something doctor, but you thought it said evil doctor?
Right. Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
in like a strip mall type area, and
Yeah.
it said the sign across the parking lot said eye doctor, but
I
the
doctor.
but the but the lighting in the sign was like partially out. So
Yeah.
from far away, this is before I got my glasses, obviously, but from far away I thought it said evil doctor, and we had a
Evil
whole laugh
doctor.
about it. And I was like, wouldn't that be hilarious if it was like an evil doctor that owned like a shop?
Yeah.
And so that's how we came up with that character would eventually become Dr. Armitage in the series.
Hmm.
And part of his character is obviously the fact that he has a secret store where he caters to quote unquote the scum of the multiverse or the villains of the
Yes.
multiverse, where he
Hmm.
sells all kinds of esoteric artifacts and dangerous, cursed objects and all that kind of good stuff. And so in the Clenchport series, his store is called Dr. Armitage's Emporium of Esoteric Oddities. And so his store exists underground, hiding beneath a standard convenience store, which looks normal above ground, and that, of course, is the Smart Shopper in Clenchport.
Hmm.
So that's one of my characters. So why don't we switch over, James? I'd love to have you talk about one of the characters that you voice in the Chronicles of
Hmm.
Clenchport series. So a big one that you do is actually a character who works at the Smart Shopper,
Yeah.
and his name is Jeb or
Jeb.
Jebediah,
Hmm.
and his last name is Ashland. So James,
Yeah,
tell us
yeah,
about
yeah.
Jeb.
Okay, so Jeb originated as a character in our series called Average Joe, where Joe goes to work at like it's the same kind of concept. He goes to work at like kind of a gas station type of thing. And originally, Jeb was called Snitchy. He was called Snitchy McSuckup. And he was based on this manager that I had at one of my jobs. And he would talk in like this nasally voice like this, and he was very into rules. And I just thought like that guy is a freaking cartoon character. So I kind of designed him a little bit based on that guy, and his voice is definitely based on him. And yeah, so it's like you kind of pull from real life. And there was another character I think that you voiced, so I kind of want to bring back the kind of the twitchy manager guy. He goes like, "Hey,
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're not smiling," that kind of thing.
Yeah, he was like a more extreme version of Jeb's character in Chronicles of Clenchport.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe I will bring him back at some point.
Yeah. But yeah, it was all based on people. I used to work at a theme park, and of course the rule was you always smile. And they had like this rule book, like 50 pages long, which is where like the rule book comes from. And you would have like employees who have been there for 30 years, but are like in the same position that they've always been in, making the same wage. But it's like this is their career. They're stuck there. They want to move up, but they never can because of all the backstabbing.
Right,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, James. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
so Troll Slayer and Jeb are both main characters in the Chronicles of Clenchport series, of course, and then we have a few others that you've heard. Probably you've probably heard about them in some of my short stories, and then of course
Hmm.
the opening episode or the opening skit at the beginning of this podcast episode, we had a few of them as well. But
Hmm.
don't want to spoil all of them just yet, so we'll stop there
Yeah,
and move on to our next topic here. But
for
so
sure.
the next thing I wanted to talk about is how Clenchport is we have plans to make it a transmedia universe, meaning that
Hmm.
it will exist as both an animated series as well as a narrative podcast.
Hmm.
And then also it already exists in a variety of my short stories. And so all of these stories and Clenchport itself exists within a even wider universe that I've been building on Substack. And obviously the origins of this universe go all the way back to I think 2012.
Hmm.
And I these days I refer to it as the Synaptic Sprawl. The Synaptic Sprawl is obviously a horror multiverse, is how I describe it, and it is basically a ton of parallel universes that exist within the mind of an eldritch terror called the Dreamer. And so a lot of my horror stories take place in these various parallel universes. And so the way that the Synaptic Sprawl works as a multiverse is that you can only enter or exit it from what are called nexus points. And nexus
Hmm.
points are places where every single variation of a universe exists on top or below each other. So it's basically very concentrated, right? It's like an entry point, like I said, or an exit point. And so a lot of energy flows through there. And so I say all that because Clenchport itself, as part of this broader universe, the town of Clenchport is indeed a nexus. And so as
Hmm.
a result of that, it's a very strange place where different parallel universes kind of bleed in and out of each other. And a lot of weird things happen because you have so much energy and beings as well entering and exiting the sprawl. So James, what I wanted to talk about is the beginning of this entire concept of mine.
Hmm.
Well before we created Clenchport, it went back to a horror story that I wrote years and years and years ago called
Hmm.
Insanity's Embrace.
Oh yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were there when I read it live in front of a small group of people. Weren't you there that night?
Yeah, it was a freaking hit, man. It was great. Yeah, I remember you getting applause after after you reading that. No, it was great. Is that still available like anywhere
So
online?
yeah, I can talk about that for a second. So I worked with a small publisher a while back, and there's a few ebooks of mine that I wrote on Amazon. And unfortunately, because of the relationship that I had with the publisher, they were a little rushed and the cover art wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I don't actively promote them.
Hmm.
But I did sell them the rights to that Insanity's Embrace story. So that's the only way to access it, if
Cool.
you wanted to, purchase it. But I've since written similar stories and honestly better stories. Um,
For sure.
on Substack here, which also exists within that universe. So that's a great question, James.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the fact that Clinchport exists within this horror mythos because there's a lot of exciting stuff we can do with it. And a part of that is that my horror mythos is in the actual kind of universe. There exists a wall around the edge of the multiverse beyond which
Hmm.
lies what's called the abyssal prison. the guardians of that prison are known as wardens, and they are reincarnated people from across history who have been brought back to
Oh,
life and made immortal so that they can stand guard and essentially defend all of the multiverse from these eldritch monstrosities that exist beyond that wall. And so the reason I bring that up is because the wardens are big reoccurring characters in a lot of my horror stories, and one of them,
absolutely.
yeah, and one of them, as you know, James, is Agent Michael Durwood.
Agent Durwood. Yep. Uh-huh.
And so Durwood is going to be a big character in Chronicles of Clenchport as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to show up at the very end of the pilot,
Yep,
I think.
that's correct. Yeah, and
Hmm.
Michael Durwood in the Clenchport podcast is voiced by, I forget his last name, but I know his first name is Jared.
Jared, he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jared's the voice of Michael Durwood. He does a phenomenal job. You guys are going to love him.
Yeah, he does Michael Durwood. He does another character that's very, very funny.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Mhm.
So now that we've kind of covered sort of the broader mythos, the next thing I wanted to talk about is how we arrived at Clenchport. So if I recall correctly, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, James, but
Mhm.
if I recall correctly, you and I, years and years ago, we decided that we wanted to do a series where all of our characters that we had developed up until that point. So it was our evil doctor character, it was Troll Slayer,
Yeah, Troll
obviously
Slayer.
Troll Slayer's mom because he lives with her. We wanted them all to exist in the same town. Am I right in remembering? Is that how
I
it?
think you're correct. I think Joe is in there as well. I
Yeah,
think we went to do after show. But I'd still love to bring back at some point.
yeah, for sure. We should actually bring him back at some point. So that was kind of how Clenchport came about. But I
Yeah.
remember you basically said to me, "Okay, I want to start working on a real series, and I want to really get it off the
Mhm.
ground." And you were like, you basically said, "Okay, pitch me some ideas." And so
Yeah.
I pitched you two ideas. The
Hmm.
first of which was the Chronicles of Clenchport, and the
Yep.
other one was a Norse mythology concept called
Oh
Return to.
my God.
Yeah,
So freaking good.
yeah, it was called Return to Ragnarok, and it was based around a fictional tabletop RPG where the characters were pulled into the world of the game, and it was a
Mhm.
very cool concept. But we ended up going with Clenchport, and so Return to Ragnarok never actually went anywhere. It just remained kind of a pitch
Yeah.
on my Google
I,
Drive.
I think the reason that I went with Clenchport at the time, it wasn't called Clenchport. It was called, I think, Doctor Something's Emporium for something or other.
Right, right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we went with that because it was slightly less ambitious at the time for what we could do. It's like now it's like whatever, I can do anything we want to do. But yeah, I think at the time I just had like kind of limited resources, but now we actually have like a full team working on this stuff.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is the reason I brought it up is because, James, as you know, I've recently started working with a company called Audio Mazes that does immersive
Hmm.
audio dramas.
Hell yeah.
Um, so what I did was I ended up pitching them Return to Ragnarok, and
Hmm.
as soon as I started working with them, and so I'm really excited to announce, and I'm hoping to announce this also on Substack, but my second Audio Mazes book just released, and it is in fact Return to Ragnarok, and
Oh, damn.
the concept is very similar to what you and I discussed forever ago. I was really excited to use the idea, elsewhere.
Hmm.
So Return to Ragnarok, I ended up using that idea for Audio Mazes, and so now you can actually, if you're an Audio Mazes subscriber, you can listen to the full book. And the concept is very similar. It's about a fictional tabletop RPG called Return to Ragnarok that is based on Norse mythology. And in the book, you're able to choose, because it has branching paths, you're able to choose which character you want to quote unquote play as. You can follow any of their stories. And so there is a barbarian, a necromancer, and a ranger for you to choose from.
That's sick.
Yeah, and then the book has multiple endings and a lot of crazy twists. So, Return to Ragnarok, thankfully, ended up becoming a real idea elsewhere, and obviously, you and I decided to pursue Clenchport. So,
Mhm.
obviously, I'll have plenty more ideas down the road, but right now, we are all in
Yeah,
on Clenchport, and that's where I'm happy to be.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm really interested to see like how far we can get Clenchport because I know there's a ton of indie animation out there these days. There's all sorts of pilots getting produced, and it's a really cool time for independent animation. So when the kind of the rest of like the industry is kind of falling apart, all the indie people are kind of taking over. So it's an exciting time.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, it feels right. It feels like really good
Hmm.
as far as timing goes. And so
Yeah.
next I wanted to talk about where we are right now, like the current status of the Clenchport series, because as I've told everybody, it's upcoming. We're working on it. Our team that we have right now,
Hmm.
James, it's about
Hmm.
15 people. Am I right about that?
Something like that. Yeah.
And so these are all people that are extremely talented, and they're currently volunteering their time until we're able to secure funding.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And so yeah, so right now, from a writing perspective, what I can say is that we've written the pilot script. Obviously, we've approved
Hmm.
that and made edits to it. We also have a number of short film style type things that we were going to do to kind of build out interest in the series, and
Yeah.
these include some character focused shorts as well as a series of sort of interrogations where the character Michael Durwood is
Yeah.
grilling different characters about events that will happen in the series.
It's
But
gonna be really cool. Yeah.
yeah, James, let me pause for a second to have you talk about where we
Mhm.
are in terms of art and animation and that kind of stuff.
Art and animation. Okay, so we have most of the main characters kind of designed. We are storyboarding some of the shorts right now, and I think I'm actually going to pivot soon to have people start like actually storyboarding the pilot because we really need to get that done. Or storyboarded so we can actually start animating it and getting backgrounds made. And speaking of backgrounds, we have backgrounds being made for the short and for the shorts, and I'm doing all the character animation and the rigging, the setup of each of the characters. So I'm working in a program called Toon Boom Harmony, which is a digital animation software, vector based. So basically, I'm taking all of the character designs that are my friend Adam. He did all the characters, or most of the main characters. I think we had my friend Eric also do some great character designs. So I'm taking their character designs and kind of making them into like these digital puppets that you can kind of move around and make them look really cool. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
That's great, James. Thank you. Yeah, I love how you
Mhm.
described the animation process too, because I know it's extremely complicated, but you described it in a very
Yeah,
understandable way, so I appreciate that.
for sure. I'm actually thinking of starting a Substack for animation related things. So I
Hey,
might
right.
write more about that.
That would be amazing. Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Well, you heard it here first, folks. James
yeah,
Nethery may be coming to Substack. And don't
yeah,
worry, I will be letting you know when that happens.
absolutely. And I gotta, while I'm here, I gotta plug I'm starting a craft beer channel as well. I'm a big
Ah,
craft beer guy. So that's gonna have some cool animation stuff in it as well. So definitely keep an eye out for me.
craft beer and animation, a match made in
Oh yeah.
heaven.
Absolutely. I'm not drinking a beer right now, but there is a drink of some sort in my hand.
Yeah, so that's where we're at right now with Clenchport. And so one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is our podcast that we're going to be launching soon. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to be called The Many Worlds of Clenchport. And the idea of the podcast is that it's going to be an ongoing narrative podcast where it stars two radio hosts who are longtime residents of Clenchport, and they are
Hmm.
basically investigating some strange events throughout the town's history. And as part of the podcast, they have discovered an archive of found audio from alternate realities and versions of Clenchport. And so this as the
Hmm.
series goes on, we'll learn about not only the history of the Clenchport in our universe, but the history of Clenchport and other parallel versions of it within that local nexus that I mentioned earlier as part of the Synaptic Sprawl. So that'll be really exciting. The podcast is in production. I'm hoping to launch it soon. I think it's safe to say that as far as casting goes, obviously I will be playing one of the hosts. Ron Cutler is my
Hmm.
character's name, and then we have explored a couple options for the co-host,
For
but
the second one.
I think at this point, just because of availability, we're going to have you, James, co-host as Dave
Hmm.
Netherson is the name of that character.
Yes. Hey, fits my name. Fits my last name.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and the co-hosts are very much supposed to be a nod to James and myself. So,
Yeah. And Dave is my dad's name too.
yep,
So that's
yep,
kind of cool.
exactly. That's right. I did that on purpose, I think.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so the podcast will be really interesting. The way that it's going to work is that every episode will actually be two parts. So in each episode, you're going to have an episode, like for example, episode one, side A, and
Hmm.
episode one, side B, and these will be two separate releases. And the reason for that is because in side A, you're going to hear about a story from Clenchport's history that exists within our universe. So
Hmm.
it's based on the town's history in this universe that we are in ourselves, and the universe that our characters are in the series. Now, in episode B, they're going to use the found audio they have to listen to several other variations of Clenchport in different parallel universes, and they're going to see how that same story played out in parallel realities. And so it's going to be
Hmm.
really, really cool. I think it's a very unique structure. I'm really excited about it. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on the podcast, James, just in general?
Oh man, it's gonna be really cool. Kind of like a companion piece to the series, which I think is amazing. And yeah, like you said, it's all part of the expanded. What did you call it? Like the expanded the
Transmedia universe?
transmedia universe. Yes, it's all
Yeah,
going to be all part of that.
yeah.
And yeah, it'd be great to do a bunch of kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've been really inspired by the concept of a transmedia universe, so I want to build that
Hmm.
out. And the idea
Yeah.
with the idea with the transmedia universe is that you can experience just one of the things and still get a complete story.
Hmm.
So if you just watched Clenchport the series and all of its shorts, you would still get a full and complete story. But if you decided to expand your perspective to the short stories or to the podcast, you would get
Hmm.
additional lore and story. And so that's what makes it really
Yeah.
cool to me.
It's kind of like the old, like before Disney kind of took over, like the old Star Wars expanded universe
Right.
type of thing, where they'd have like all these books and comics and all this kind of cool stuff alongside like the main movies, and like people could kind of like get like all this lore and stuff like that outside of the main series. So I think it's a really freaking cool idea.
That's exactly right. I think that's a great comparison, James. So to wrap up our discussion here, I wanted to talk about what's next for the Chronicles of Clenchport.
Hmm.
So obviously,
Hmm.
I'm hoping within the next, let's say, realistically, probably the next month or two, I want to launch the
Hmm.
podcast, The Many Worlds of
Yes,
Clenchport. And then I don't think we really have a timeline yet for the series, unfortunately, but
we don't.
I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what our next steps are. So obviously you were talking about storyboarding and, kind of
Hmm.
art and backgrounds and stuff. Um, you and I have also talked a bit about seeking investors or crowdfunding.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think I think that's still the plan at some point in the near future.
Yeah, kind of what I want to do is get like the storyboards for the pilot done, and maybe like a little bit of animation done as well, like with some full backgrounds, and kind of like either get a Kickstarter going or try and find like an investor of some sort to get the get the series off the ground, so we can make more episodes. Because we can make the first episode on our own, no problem. It's just subsequent episodes are going to be tricky to fund, you
Right,
know.
right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's a really good example of why the crowdfunding slash investors are needed.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then another thing that I wanted to highlight is that we are uh, we are bringing in help from Sarah Rush,
Hmm. Hmm.
my girlfriend, and she has experience with web design, and so
Hmm.
we are going to have her help us build a website for Clinchport here in the near future. And we're going to structure the website as if it were a fictional townofclenchport.com kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
And so I'm really excited to tap into her talents there.
Hmm.
Obviously, to anybody listening to this, you probably know her better, Sarah better, as the prompt goddess, because she came up with all those amazing prompts back in Flash Fiction February, as well as my Madness and Mayhem challenge.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, she is leveraging her talents to help us with Clenchport as well, and we're really excited
Yeah.
to have her on the team.
No, Sarah's very talented voice actress as well. I loved her voice work that
That's
we've
very
done for a
true. I
couple
appreciate,
things. Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because as
Hmm.
part of this episode, there's a couple of different segues in here, and those segues are actually fictional ads that will be featured in the Clinchport podcast. I wanted to preview
Hmm.
them here, and you'll actually hear Sarah's voice in both of them. So if you enjoy that, definitely leave a comment and tag her. Her tag is Tirabee, so it's at
Hmm.
TRIRABEE. And let her know what you think because I know she would love that. But yeah, she does great work with her voice acting as well. That's a very good point.
Yeah, that was really fantastic work. You showed me those today, and I was really impressed with that. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, James, I am so grateful to have you back on the show for a second time, and this was a wonderful
Yeah.
discussion about Clenchport and the stuff that we're working on. So thank you again for being here, and I'm sure I'll have you back again someday soon when we're
Yeah,
closer to
let's do this
launching.
again.
Yeah, when we're closer to
Absolutely.
launching the series, I'm sure I'll have you back. But thanks for being here, James.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man.
All right, and thank you to James once again for joining me for that awesome discussion to talk about this amazing series and universe that we're building. Before we wrap up, I've got one more message here from a product that you'll only find on the shelves of the Smart Shopper and maybe the dark web in Clenchport.
Aw, what's the matter? Don't like what you see in the mirror?
Much like my life, my physique also peaked in high school. No matter what I do, I can't seem to lose weight.
That's because the fitness industry has been lying to you. Weight loss doesn't come from exercise and a healthy diet. It comes from drastic and non-FDA approved supplements.
Really? You mean all I have to do is take a sketchy pill 3 times a day and I'll finally lose this weight?
Of course, it's that simple. Introducing Drop Dead Gorgeous, the only weight loss supplement guaranteed to produce rapid and terrifying weight loss in a matter of weeks.
Sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?
Well, they say that beauty is pain, and in this case, it's downright lethal.
Wait, you mean it's gonna kill me?
You betcha! Just about every ingredient in Drop Dead Gorgeous's proprietary blend is classified as a poisonous substance.
I don't know if that trade-off is worth it.
Would 300,000 sales and 45 pending lawsuits lie?
Huh, well, when you put it that way, I guess not. That's it then. I'm gonna go head to the store and pick up a bottle of Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oops, you won't find it at any retailers. Drop Dead Gorgeous is available exclusively on the dark web.
Oh, good. How convenient. Thanks, disembodied voice.
You betcha! Drop Dead Gorgeous. It'll kill you, but at least you'll look great at your funeral.
All right, and as I said earlier in the episode, these ads that you've heard today on this special episode of the Saved as Draft podcast are some examples of the in-universe ads that you'll be hearing on the Many Worlds of Clenchport podcast. So while you may hear those again when that show launches, I couldn't resist the urge to give you guys a little preview and show you what we're working with there as far as the style of comedy and humor goes in those ads that'll sort of break up the stories told in the Many Worlds of Clenchport podcast. All right, and before we wrap up, I just want to mention the plan for next week once I'm back from my trip. I've scheduled a few things to come out while I'm on vacation so the algorithm doesn't throw me into the void, but once I'm back, we'll have a brand new full episode of the Saved as Draft podcast on Friday, August 29th. And as a quick reminder, Power Up Prompt number 10, which is focused on dialogue and world building, will be open until Thursday, August 28th. So check it out and let me know if you publish something so I can mention it on the next full episode of this podcast. And before I wrap up here, I just want to give a special shout out to everyone listening to this and to everyone who's shown support for the Clenchport series thus far. James and I and the team as well are very passionate about what we're building here, and your support really does mean the world to us. So stay tuned for more news soon. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to packing for my trip, but I'm wishing you all a productive week of writing while I'm out. And thanks again for checking out this week's special episode. This is Bradley Ramsey, signing off.
Honey, where did this PS5 Pro and Switch 2 come from?
They're mine, Mom! I bought them,
Are you sure you didn't take them from Bradley's house?
Oh, come on, Mom! He does my voice! We're basically the same person! And let's be honest, what is ownership in the digital age anyway? Do we really own anything anymore?
Don't you get all philosophical on me, boy. You return that man's expensive gaming consoles this instant.
Ugh, fine, but let me finish Elden Ring first. I must become the Elden Lord. Maybe then I won't be maidenless anymore.
Yeah, maybe the Elden Lord will actually help out on the bills around here.
Get out of my room, Mom!